thank you for inviting us to be part of this conversation as part of the WeProtect Global Summit. My name is Jacob Sedesse. You know, as a journalist and a filmmaker, I naturally love to chat and to share stories. But also as a student of the field of communications and as a lover of technology, I naturally have a love for the platforms and media that we use to talk and share those stories. I get the privilege every day of working with Snapchat to define the future of safety online as part of the Safety Advisory Board. I'm joined today by Snap Inc. CEO Evan Spiegel. Evan, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, Jacob, and thanks to everyone who's working so hard to keep people safe online. I know the WeProtect community and this summit is such an important opportunity to bring people together to discuss these issues, and I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to be with you here today.
Right, so let's just jump right into the questions. As you know, Snapchat is incredibly popular. Knowing how many people are using this platform to send so many messages every single day, how is community safety part of that, and how do you view its importance in building this app?
Well, I think, as we set out to build Snapchat, a lot of that was informed by our own experience with social media growing up. We were the first generation, Bobby and I, to grow up with social media. And so we had to live with the pressure of all the permanent content online, of all the public likes and comments, and the feeling that you should only show, perfect and pretty moments online. And that just didn't make us feel very good. And so we really wanted to build something different. We wanted a fun way to communicate with our friends that help people to live in the moment, to fully express themselves and to share, their whole life experience, not just the 1% of moments that are pretty and perfect for social media. And so we started out with visual messaging. Of course, the service has evolved so much since then, but it's really stayed true to that vision of opening to the camera, empowering people to express themselves and connect together with their close friends and family.
As part of designing an app like Snapchat, there are some philosophies that go into that, and two of the key ones are safety by design and privacy by design. Some people view them as having some sort of overlap, but some people view them as being, completely polar opposites. So can you talk a little bit about how you've thought about those concepts since Snapchat's inception, really, since you were in college?
In the early days, we just started with the things that we really wanted from a service. And those were things like, only talking to someone on Snapchat if you both added each other as friends. So you both had to say that you wanted to connect with one another. Things like deletion by default. So, deleting, for example, your conversations by default to help people feel like their conversation was like happening face to face or happening over the phone where your conversations aren't recorded forever. Of course, over that period of time, we've evolved ways to store content, for example, that's proactively detected or reported for violating our guidelines so that we can help assist law enforcement in their investigations. But things like, deletion by default are really, really important for protecting folks' privacy. And then, as we evolve the service over time, and we wanted to expand into content, for example, we decided to pre-moderate content before it reaches a large audience to help cut down on the spread of things like misinformation or otherwise harmful content. And while we started with the things that we were really passionate about and we really cared about, now that we serve 850 million people around the world, we really listen to our community a lot about what's important to them and listen to, of course, NGOs and lawmakers, folks who are passionate about these issues, so we can learn from them and integrate their findings and their learnings to evolve our service to better meet the needs of our community.
I think every social media platform has its own unique identity. What I really love about Snapchat is that it's really staying true to its form of staying in touch with the people that you really care about and people that you know from the real world. But since I've joined the Safety Advisory Board, I've learned a little bit more about what goes into that. There are a lot of ethical conversations that go on behind the scenes fostering a safe community online. So given that young people are using Snapchat so heavily, are there certain safety features that you're building to help cultivate this environment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really comes down to the architecture of our service. So things like I mentioned, where two people have to add each other as friends before communicating. We started with that foundation, but then we built additional features on top of it. So for example, if somebody adds someone that they don't have a lot of friends in common with, or somebody who seems to be from an IP address in a foreign country, for example, we'll flag that relationship and say, are you really sure you know this person? Is this really your real life friend? To really help people make smart decisions when they're choosing to communicate with people online. So I think those sorts of warnings and advisories are really important in terms of helping to keep our community safe.
You have this kind of dad vibe about you. You're very approachable, very friendly, and I get this impression that you're very involved in your kids' lives. Has that shaped your thinking about safety and privacy, or is there anything else that's really shaped kind of your views on safety and privacy?
Yeah, well, with four boys at home, I can't help but give off the dad vibe. So, I think Flynn is our oldest. He's 13, almost 14, and so that's definitely given me a front row seat to what's happening with Snapchat with young people, but also other services more broadly. And I think what's really important to me as a parent really is finding a balance between spending time, real world activities, hanging out with friends in the real world, enjoying sports and those sorts of things. And then, of course, staying in touch with friends when you're apart using services like Snapchat. Because ultimately, we want Flynn to have really strong relationships. We know how important positive relationships are, friendships are to mental health and well being. And so we really want Flynn to use technology services to help support those relationships. But I think for me, looking at the way that our kids use technology, it makes me excited about the long term future of augmented reality. So we've been making this big bet for about 10 years now on AR glasses because we want to evolve computing from being something that is just enjoyed behind a screen because screens take us out of our environment, right? They distract us. And one of the things we hear from folks all the time is that people feel like screens are taking them out of their real world experiences. And AR glasses allow people to get all those benefits of computing, but then to share those experiences together, to enjoy them in the real world with their friends. And so as we look towards the long-term vision of computing, I always joke with my wife that I imagine looking out the window, seeing our boys running around, playing outside, wearing the glasses and just being like, gosh, they won't get off the darn computer, and I think that vision for computing that brings people together to share things with their friends, to get outside, stay in the real world, that's what really excites me.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, are your kids on Snapchat, and do you have any features that you might use to help keep track of your kids?
Yeah, we offer something called Family Center, and for Flynn, who's on Snapchat, that allows him to link his account with Miranda, as my wife, or myself, and to see the friends who he's chatting with, not the contents of the conversation, but the friends. We like to think that that sort of mirrors the way that parents look after their teens in real life, where they don't listen to every single conversation their teens having at school or with their friends, but they do know who their teens hanging out with, and that helps. I think parents feel comfortable that Snapchat's supporting the relationships that matter most. We also have been rolling out some new features that allow parents to use the Snap Map to see where their teens are, and I think that's another really helpful and useful tool for parents, in addition to some of the content controls we offer as well.
Outside of Snapchat world for just a minute, what do you do to think about screen time with your kids? How do you moderate how much time they're using screens? And, given that this is the screen generation, how do you kind of navigate that world within your own family?
Yeah, for us, it's really just about finding that balance, and I think that we totally lost that balance in the pandemic. We originally, as Flynn was growing up and as our younger boys were growing up, we like to encourage them to spend time off of screens, to build Lego or play outside with their friends. But when the pandemic happened, and Flynn's only way of connecting with his friends was online, his only way of going to school was online, screens really invaded our lives. And so I think the theme over the last couple of years has been really trying to restore that balance, to encourage Flynn to follow his passions. He's really into art, for example. He's into cross country running, and so to really encourage those activities. And then, of course, if he wants to watch a movie or stay in touch with his friends, the screen's a perfectly good way to do that, at least until AR glasses are more widely adopted.
Right. I think it's crucial for us, though, as young people, to have a voice in these types of conversations. How do you think about incorporating young people's voices into Snapchat and, all of Snap's services and products?
I think it's so important that young people share how they feel when they use our service, that we really listen thoughtfully to that. Fortunately, with 850 million people using our service around the world, there is no shortage of feedback about Snapchat and the way that it makes people feel. And I think, it's important not to just look at the breadth of feedback, but also to create opportunities like our advisory boards where folks can get together and have longer and more in-depth conversations, really wrestle with the issues of privacy and safety. And I think for us to hear that feedback and participate in those conversations has been really valuable.
Of course, as the CEO, your voice has a lot of influence in this space. And right now, we have the ears and eyes of government officials, policymakers, safety experts, and tech company leaders. So, is there anything that you would like to leave them with on preventing child sexual exploitation and abuse online, or just online safety in general?
Well, we just have an enormous amount of gratitude for all of the different organizations, of course, law enforcement who are committed to working on these issues. And I think to the extent that we can continue to collaborate, to share our learnings, and work together to help keep people safe, I think that's really what complex challenges like this require. And so, what's been so heartening to me is just the way that I've seen this community and all of these folks work so productively together. And I think there's so much more opportunity for us to collaborate and, of course, to benefit from all the expertise and feedback that nonprofits and law enforcement, have shared with us over the years and continue to share as, the threats are continuously evolving. And so I think that sort of collaboration helps us to meet the needs of our community around the world and stay ahead of the evolving threats that we face today.
Evan, I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. So I hope you all enjoyed learning a little bit more about each of our perspectives, and I thank you all at WeProtect and at the Summit for all the crucial work you do in protecting youth online. We hope you have a great remainder of the Summit. Bye-bye.